Hello and welcome to Grossly Competent, the learning, development, and adulting podcast that doesn't claim to be pretty, but we will happily pretend to be slightly competent. I am your host, Steve Council, and I'm joined by my co-host, Best.
You can't even get it out. How scathing is this going to be?
Best known as Ugly Face McUgly, Mr. Patrick Ayleshire.
You are truly a child, and I love it. Well, thanks, Steve. I truly admire the bravery it takes to open this adulting podcast like that, especially coming from someone whose main adult responsibility today was remembering to bring headphones.
Yes. The funny thing is, I just keep my headphones right on this desk that I'm at right now because I would forget them. I know where I stand in life, and childish is pretty fitting.
That's fair.
Well, folks, we have some great things to talk about today. It's a really nice topic. Patrick was the one that originally came up with it, so got to give you credit where it belongs. But until we get to that part, those of you out in listener land, you are wanting to know just as much as I am who, Mr. Patrick, is our sponsor of the week.
Our sponsor of the week is, wait for it, Googling symptoms at midnight. It's probably nothing. It's definitely something. Googling symptoms at midnight. Escalating calmly.
Yeah, right. Wow. Thanks, big Googling symptoms at midnight. If there's anything that Dr. Google provides, it's a sense of closure when it comes to why does this hurt?
Is it a paper cut or is it cancer?
Or a tumor. Or a tumor. Yeah. There is nothing, and I mean this with the biggest heaping pile of sarcasm. There is nothing that doctors love more than when you go to them and say, well, I wasn't sure what this was, so I Googled it. There's nothing they love more. Nothing. So there's that. And maybe for a future podcast, I can always dangle this little carrot, but I had somebody, I almost needed to get my finger removed. And yeah, it's a weird story. I almost had to get my finger removed because my wedding ring was too tight. And the hand specialist that helped solve the problem when he did, his words were, and they say YouTube is worth nothing. So folks, I promise you, lots of professions are using Google and YouTube, and some you probably wish weren't.
That's kind of messed up. I'm glad you didn't have an amputation of sorts.
I joked and said I was going to be Frodo of the Nine Fingers. Those of you out there that are giant nerds like myself, you are probably singing it to yourself, just like the 70s cartoon?
Sure.
Anyway, no. So what's going on in your world, Mr. Patrick?
Well, it's a fun time of year. So, Steve, I got to tell you, unbeknownst to you, maybe, it is the official start of March Madness.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the official start of spring. You're right. I did not know that it was March Madness. Yeah. That's how little I pay attention.
NCAA tournament, as of we're recording today on a Wednesday, it starts tomorrow on a Thursday. And it's a super exciting time of year for me. It's the best weekend of the year, Thursday through Sunday.
Sure.
The start of the tournament. It's the energy from 64 teams, narrowing right down to Sweet 16 at the end of the night on Sunday. It's just a great time of year. Per usual, as I have done every single year in my adult life since I had graduated from college, I'll be off work both Thursday and Friday, so I can sit on my couch and watch basketball.
That's awesome.
I am not quite sure why it's not a national holiday just yet. I mean, how can one even focus at work during this time? I don't even try it because I won't be working.
I can answer that because I don't follow basketball like at all. I have joked, I hedge my bets in saying that basketball is just, it's not my cup of tea. Like watching it does nothing for me, but I hedge my bets in saying that the only time I like to watch basketball is if my kids want to play it. Like,
Sure.
okay. So if they want to join basketball team, I'll be like, I don't want them thinking like, yeah, but dad doesn't, he hates basketball. It's like, hate's a strong word, sweetie. It's just like the last thing on the planet I watch. So there's that.
He can't, Dad's not going to make it to my game. He said his ring is stuck on his finger again.
He says he's trying to fit a size 8 ring on a size 10 finger, and it just feels weird. I think he's lying to us. No, it's kind of funny. So I did not realize it's March Madness. That's how aloof I am on that topic. But, and this is, now that I'm thinking about it, probably makes sense why I saw this video. I think it was yesterday, maybe even the day before. Before I was going to bed, I was doing what all good adults do, and that is doom scrolling before I went to bed. And I saw this video of a guy doing, like, he was playing basketball. It was just him though. Like, and he was doing these things that are just like egregiously against the rules. Like even a dummy like me in the world of basketball knows that like you can't just run with the ball. Right? Like that's called traveling. And what was funny is this guy was doing these things and then splicing in actual footage of like professional basketball, or it could have been college for all I know, where they're violating these rules to the nines. Like,
yeah,
he just like runs the like half the court up to the hoop and just like dunks it. And then it shows an actual NBA professional do exactly that. Like you just like see the ball never hit the ground.
There is no traveling called in the NBA. It's very infrequent. Yeah. Even that's local listeners that are from the Milwaukee area or Wisconsin. We're obviously big Bucks fans, and Giannis has been a huge part of the Milwaukee history in the last 10 some years. Even he travels quite a bit. He does his little Euro step, and it's a great move, but there's plenty of footage where he is taking gigantic steps, more than you are supposed to be doing, but it's, the NBA wants a lot of points being scored. And so if you call traveling, there's a chance they won't be able to score on that play.
Is that really why?
Probably. The game has evolved a lot where it's a very high scoring. I would say overall, the product isn't great. Now, I'm not comparing college to the NBA. The NBA obviously are professionals. They get paid so much money. They are very talented.
Oh, sure.
The reason I loved college is that it's the college experience. Well, one, the NCAA tournament itself is just the crown jewel for me. But you've got the bands, you've got the student sections, you've got just the overall, the hype, and even now it's like they've got the NIL, the money and all that stuff, and the transfer portal, which is it's not great, but the idea of just the kind of innocence of the college tournament and all that is what I prefer more to watch than what that video you were watching was showing was definitely, there's some truth to that, because it can be some garbage for sure.
And there's, every sport is guilty of it, right? And I'm not trying to like make fun of basketball exclusively. It's funny you said, oh, March Madness. I'm like, oh, I just watched a video on that. Like, I'm a big football guy. Like, fine. And I do find it funny that you're saying that the refs won't call traveling because they want like those points to be scored.
Yeah.
Yet football fanatics like myself will scrutinize plays, be like, his toes were clearly in the line. Like, no, like, according to my armchair quarterbacking and refereeing, there was like an eighth of an inch over the line. That's ridiculous. Like, it's just,
what is worse, Steve?
So tough.
Oh, what's worse, Steve, is not only people that will yell at the TV, but when you're at a live event and you are 6,000 feet away from the call, and you're like, that was a ball, that was a strike, that was a foul, That was a penalty. No, shut up. You cannot. There's no way you saw that his pinky toe was on the line, okay?
That, and I love the cognitive dissonance. Full disclosure, I'm guilty. Like,
For sure.
I don't know. I've certainly yelled at my TV, like, "Oh my, come on!" Whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. But when you're right. When you're live, I would love just one time. You know what? Hey, listeners out there, if it just happens to be that I have a Make-A-Wish from like the Make-A-Wish Foundation, mine's going to be that at some sporting event, somebody needs to yell some ridiculous thing like, "No, that was a foul," from like the nosebleeds. And I need a ref to go, "That guy up there's got a point." Like, all right, reversing the call. Sorry, folks. Like, I need that. Or my NFL fans out there, and some of my close friends know this. My tried and true is that the former kicker for the Oakland Raiders, Sebastian Janikowski, my dream was for him to walk onto the field without a helmet, a flask tucked into his pants, and he has to have a marb just barely hanging off his lip, and then just crank like a 50-yard field goal. And just like he doesn't care. Like he does not want to be there. That on my deathbed needs to happen. And Sebastian Janikowski, well, if he's listening, I want him to know he needs to do this for me. So I know he's a big listener, huge fan.
Oh,
Stop sending us messages.
oh, for sure.
So Seabass, hook it up. I'm
One last gripe about the sports watch. And I don't, this may or may not be a rule. I haven't thought about it in a while, but I know it was very, very like recent that people could do this. The worst rule is if you're watching professional golf, the PGA. Do you know about this rule, Steve?
No, I don't think so. I don't know.
And maybe it's not a rule anymore. Maybe someone that's a golf fanatic can let us know. But as of, let's say, like a few years ago, someone that was watching the PGA Tour, one of the tournaments on TV, could call in and report a violation.
What?
Yeah, no, serious. They would call in and say, the guy, like, if he's in the bunker and he's like swinging back, like one of the rules is your club can't like hit the sand when you're doing your backswing or whatever. And if they saw like some sand move, or they saw them like barely tap the ball or put the ball down the wrong when they're doing a drop shot or whatever, like people would call in. Like that was a legit thing.
I've never heard this before. Listeners, obviously this is an audio format. You didn't witness my mouth just open like a bass just listening to Patrick. What? That's insane.
Yeah.
Wow. I never knew that.
Give control.
And you said you're not sure if it's still something?
Right. We'll have to look up and put it in the show notes or something.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Huh. Holy hell. Wow, you learn something new every day. That is, oh God, could you imagine that for any, like, baseball, like any of that? Oh my God, no. There's enough keyboard warriors out there. My God.
Right.
Oh, that would be awful. Maybe somebody would be accused of being AI.
I mean, I know how that feels.
Possible. Yeah. Talk about a deep cut. Anyway, deep cut. We're on episode 28. Real deep, guys. Real deep cut. Talk to me when you hit like episode 300. Like,
we have to keep coming up with different names for the Wayback Machine, because they'd be like, you've had 6 episodes. You get called the Wayback Machine. That was 5 weeks ago.
Yeah. You can't remember that? Jeez, people. Oh, well, my God.
We repeat stuff all the time, and it's particularly because of our weak-ass memory. But 2, it's not only that facially we're hideous, it's that our memories are hideous. It's just overall our human existence.
Our minds try to escape our visage as much as possible. Like, it's like, oh God, no, get me out of here. And it's like, no, just like Creed said, you're in my own prison. Anyway,
Oh, God.
so there's that. All right, Patrick. So I don't know. Something kind of came up recently, and I don't know if it's like the weather or what. Because okay, so some of you out there, you know that Patrick and I are Wisconsinites. We have had some goofy ass weather recently. Like, what was it? Like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, something like
Monday.
that.
It was 65.
Oh, so it was 60, and you have to realize Patrick is in Milwaukee, so he gets kind of that lake effect where I am not near Milwaukee. I would like to say that I'm out in what's called the boonies, and it was close to 70. It was crazy. And then in the matter of a week, we got a blizzard, like not just like a little smattering of snow, like they shut down schools and stuff. Like it anyway. So I think everyone's just, maybe they're on edge because of that. I don't know. But I have noticed that I've had quite a few folks come into my office at work and chat to me about things that are bothering them. And I don't mind it. I do not mind it whatsoever. I like being there. I like being there for people that need it. I've said it in the past that I probably should have been like a therapist or psychologist or something like that. But it got me thinking. And you'd mentioned this like 2, 3, maybe even like a month ago, this idea. And it just stuck in my head and resonated. And that is this kind of interesting dynamic, or even like this really kind of underplayed role that L&D is this unofficial counselor / therapist in organizations.
Sure. Yeah. I would agree with that. I was kind of hoping you were going to start talking about Festivus as far as people coming to complain to you about something, airing our grievances. But I do think we could probably tie in learning development to Seinfeld at some point.
Well, you can tie anything into Seinfeld. It's about nothing and everything all at once. No, actually, you bring up something really important that I want to make sure that I mention. And that is, I don't look at these as grievances. Like, it wasn't like people were just complaining. It was like, okay, I'm really having a tough time with this. Yeah. Or my team is struggling with this. Like, so it's all like very, personal things, because it's somebody admitting that they don't know something or that they're lacking in something and they're looking for some form of guidance. So I do really want to make sure I set that straight. Sure. Because the last thing I want is like people to think like, oh, well, I'm just going to go to Steve and gripe, because that's not my place. Like I'm there to help, not just listen to you get mad and talk trash about people or something like that.
That's funny that you mentioned that too about the griping, and I was talking about grievances, but we like to level set when we do training, especially when we talk about having a safe space and the brave zone we use. So we use a handful of of kind of some things to consider. So like,
sure.
Consider different points of view, keep an open mind in the training, allow room for silence, which is, again, allow things to just like let it marinate for a minute before you decide to respond, right? It's just being a good active listener. Yeah. There are some of those things too. And we talk about how it's a safe space. We want people to be able to share, but at the same time, we do say, hey, this isn't a gripe session. It's not a way to necessarily just complain about work. It's about how can we maybe solve your problem? How can we help get there? Yeah. So when employees come up to me after I facilitated training, and if they feel that I may be a trustworthy guy, they may want to just chit, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
Shoot the shit, as they say. But sometimes they do want to talk about their frustrations, just regards to something that happened that was on the same topic about what the training was on.
Yeah.
I'll add that when I facilitate training, I do like to create that safe space, as I mentioned.
Yeah.
I don't want to necessarily make that training ever about me, but depending how I'm reading the room, I will sometimes share personal stories or those anecdotes and tie those in to the training. And so I think that can make it more vulnerable. I'm always very quick to get it back to the content and to the group, but there's times where I think it absolutely works when you share a similar story to what you may have experienced as a facilitator. Yeah, it ties into that topic. And before I kick it back to you, I'm thinking back to my teaching days of I was teaching elementary students. So the stories I shared were a lot different. They were a lot less personal because I'm not going to tell these kids, no, yeah, at the bar over the weekend, I ran into, whatever. So that wouldn't be good.
I got pushed to the side because I'm so gross looking. Like that?
Yeah.
You kids ever beat a Boomers before?
Please, it's got right. Just great country bar at the top and a nightclub in the bottom. Side note, I did, I'm not making this up, everyone. I was teaching third or fourth grade and I had a student come in on a Monday and was like, hey, everyone, welcome back. Hope you had a great weekend. Mr. Elshire, my mom said she saw you out on Saturday. And my initial thought wasn't like, oh crap, where? It was, what time of night was that? Because I want to determine what level of douchiness I was at. But back to the teaching days. So I would tell the kids, it wasn't a lot of stuff that was in my current life going on, but it was a lot of stories about my childhood. So then those 7, 8, 9-year-olds could relate to that when I was telling a personal narrative story, teaching them about how cool it is to write those stories about something that you have lived and breathed.
Yes.
Like the time I told them about the incident I had as a child on an escalator at Southridge Mall.
Yeah.
Not go.
No. No. We need to hear about this one.
All right, give me 1 minute to. I'm gonna sum this up so quick so I can just move on because it's freaking awesome. I have a buddy of mine called his name is also Steve, and it's not the one I'm talking to right now. This is Soccer Steve. Soccer Steve.
You went to go visit him in California and saw avatars.
That's right. We tell all the stories here. So Soccer Steve used to live by me in the suburbs of Milwaukee, and him and I were at the mall with his parents at Southridge Mall, which is, for those not listening, it's a big mall like typical city has. And we were going down the escalator and we decided to sit because we were tired. And they always tell you to get ready to, make sure that you're ready to step off and all that, because most of the time people might, if your shoes are untied or whatever, your shoes might get caught and it could be bad. Well, unfortunately, I was chatting away like I normally do. And my buddy Steve starts to stand up because the escalator is almost at the bottom. And I was about a half second behind him. And I felt a little bit of a pinch. And by a little, I mean a lot of pinch. And where that pinch was on my butt. And it really hurt. I ripped a hole in my shorts. And I might have been bleeding a little bit from my bottom.
Oh, no.
Because it literally... So,
oh my God.
I remember feeling the pinch and then kept walking. No, because no one saw it, at least that I was aware of. And I'm walking in the mall. I'm probably God, I hope I was 7 or 8, not 20.
I thought you were going to say 17, 18.
I was young. I was a kid. So let's say under 10. Okay. And I remember reaching back because it was summertime. I was wearing shorts or whatever. And I remember reaching back and being ow. And then I reached back and I'm oh, there's a hole. And then oh, I'm bleeding. And then I had to tell my mom, my buddy's friend, hey, I pinched my butt. So flash forward to 2000 and we'll say 16, 17. I am telling third and fourth graders a story and we're talking about personal narratives, and they absolutely loved it. They all went home and told their parents because I had
obviously
parents tell me at conferences hey, I heard the story about the escalator. Perfect. But with that said, as I digress here, they loved personal narratives because that was a story that was memorable. And then they jumped in with their own stories.
Yeah. That's awesome. No, did you tell them Did you tell them also about how awesome it is to look at solar eclipses?
Whoa, one story at a time. No, that hadn't yet. That hadn't happened yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That had not happened yet.
Wow. So once again, listeners, I know you can't see us, but I have a really long cord for my headphones. And I find that, I don't know if any of you watch The Daily Show, specifically when Jon Stewart is on there, but when he's talking or like when he makes certain comments, he grabs his papers and like fidgets with them. And I find I do the same thing with this cord when I'm like, yeah, okay. And I like make a little M. Anyway, nobody out in Listenerland gives a shit. So there's that. Cool. No, I think that you raise a really interesting point. And I like that you were using narrative for your students, whatnot. It's a great learning tool. My God, we could talk all day long about how like adding personal touch to your training makes a tremendous difference. But with something that I think you address really well is this idea of when you share your experiences, you share it in a way to not say like, hey, look how great I am.
Right.
It's, I've been in your shoes, or this is an experience I want you to learn from so you don't repeat my errors. Like, so you're coming from a position of wanting the best for those that you are working with.
Correct.
And I do really like to stress that because, and I'd love to hear your opinion on this too, because I feel like sometimes facilitators, public speakers, anybody that gets up in front of a group and speaks has a reputation of they want it to be all about them. Like, oh, well, pay attention to me because I am the expert. No, I'm simply handing you the experiences that I have gone through, that I've learned. And I really hope you take away something from that knowledge, that experience. I can't remember how many episodes those where we talked about emotional intelligence, the thermostat versus the thermometer.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was a story that I told about myself to a group that I was facilitating, and it wasn't a pretty story on my behalf. Like, it was a story of my being petty and vindictive. And it was a real lesson in, no, that's not the correct way to handle yourself, at least professionally and personally. You need to be better about how you adjust to the different roles and how you work with people. And I, to this day, really do try to administer that as best I can. So I think it's a wonderful tool.
Right.
Now, something I want to, I'm sorry. I wanted
just to add, I've had it where even in my current position, I did this a few years ago where it was like practicing what you preach. And I kind of slipped up where I was talking about how when you're sharing stories in class and all that, it's best to just talk in generalities as far as, I was sure I had this one department where I was struggling with the communication wasn't there. And I started talking about how I was emailing a specific department.
Oh,
and it was funny because my manager was there and she was like, and afterwards she was like, hey, like, great job, whatever. And she's like, just a heads up, like, I don't know if you caught yourself, but you mentioned XYZ when you were, and I was like, oh yeah. She's like, so we want to make sure. And that was a great catch. And I was like, oh, thank you for letting me know. That's something I have to make sure I change that story around a little bit to just speak more,
Yes.
Again, and the audience that was in that, they wouldn't have known, but
sure,
my boss and I knew that there's only like 3 people on that team. So it wouldn't have been a good look as far as just being like, we know who you're talking to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, no, that's extremely relevant. No, something I was kind of interested in because when you brought up this idea of, I know you said the word grievances, but like individuals coming to you maybe after a session that you're facilitating or a training, and they talk to you about like maybe something that's bothering them or a flaw or a weakness, something that they perceive in themselves. I'm curious because your role as you have it right now, like you work with the city or like the county, whatever, and you're working with a large amount of other like departments and groups. And I'm curious, do you feel like because you've also worked private sector too, like,
Yeah.
and I want to stress that for those listening, do you feel like you get the same amount, less, more of that people approaching you with kind of these therapeutic moments of like, hey, I really could use your advice on this? Or like, do you see a switch of that at all in where you are at? I hope that makes sense. I'm sorry. I felt like word salad.
No, okay. No, it does. I would say at my current employer, I think employees do hold back a little bit. I mean, once they get to know me, and they're in a lot of sessions with me, if they have it, because sometimes it's like I'll do a training and I won't see these people for a couple of years. But there are there's some departments that do repeated training, and I get to know these people on a pretty good basis, and I might be on some committees with them, and so they get to know me that way. I would say in this position, I think some people do tend to hold back just because of where I am at. We are part of human resources. So once people hear HR, they sometimes will put up a wall. Where in my previous positions with corporate, I'd been on learning development that wasn't part of human resources. It was kind of its own entity. So that was a whole like, oh, that's a different ballgame. So people would come up and talk to me, whatever they wanted to. And they had and again, it's a trust thing. As being in HR still, I'm going to be trustworthy no matter what. Yeah. Unless it's obviously, if it's always hey, if you share something with me that I have to report.
Yeah.
What if it was a very obvious serious topic? We won't go into that. But if it's something, I was like, wow, I need to tell employee relations about that. I need to tell a director about that because it's a safety concern or whatever. But for just the whole like trust, or I want to come up to you and pick your brain about this, that still happens where I'm at now. But I would say previously, when people knew I wasn't quite human resources, they get scared. Even though, again, and this is kind of funny, Steve. I said this in training a few times too, which I didn't think was that big deal. But I would say that learning development, at least in my company, we are the least HR of HR. Just because, again, like I say that because we're facilitating, we're designing training. We're not. I mean, I don't get a boatload of emails about I-9s or or employee concerns or complaints or private stuff. That doesn't come to me. I don't deal with that. That's not part of my purview and my role at the county.
Yeah.
But it was funny. I happened to say that to someone who works in a different department, and she was like, we were just chatting after work one day, and she was like, hey, that makes us look bad. And I was like, oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. And I kind of laughed, and I'm like, oh, you're probably right. I said, no, but we love what we do. So yeah, I guess to answer your question, long-winded, if people feel that they want to come confess their sins, they are welcome to, but at the same time, it feels sometimes that they might hold back a little bit.
Interesting. I was curious, like, just with how things are positioned where you are, if you would see less, perhaps. But it sounds like probably the average, if you will. No, that's fascinating. And I am guilty as charged. I say the exact same thing about myself. I try to, this will come out as mean, and it's not meant to. I try to distance myself from HR as much as possible, only because I feel like there is a stigma that is associated with HR as this boogeyman, right? Like, oh, that's the principal's office. Like, oh, if you get called to HR, oh boy. And I think Linnell, when we had Linnell Meath on, she was even talking about that, like how HR has this rap of like, they're the judge. Like they're the ones that are going to hammer down. Where L&D, we get to kind of play the aloof jester in a way. Like, we'll offer you some trinkets of wisdom, but we'll crack a joke while we're doing it. And we don't really have any power over you, like, because we don't need to. We're there as a support mechanism. We are there for the D part, which is development. We're there to help you develop and be the best version of yourself you can. Yeah. And I think that really does lend itself to why certain people feel maybe this is an incorrect word, but compulsion. Like they feel like, oh, I'm going to go talk to Patrick now or Steve now about this. And it's like they really confide in you. I applaud that type of vulnerability. It's good that they trust you. Like, wow, thank you. I really appreciate that. I'm here to help as best I can. And sometimes you're like, well, I know you don't have the answer, but I just really wanted to talk to you about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, neat. Thank you. Like I know I have the face of, like Quasimodo, but I'm glad you felt that I was trustworthy. Like that's pretty great.
Have you ever had a training session that's turned into like a full-blown confessional? Maybe not just one person, but kind of the whole employee experience just coming out and being like,
I'm trying to think here. That's a good question.
I've seen it, and I'll answer.
Yeah, you go ahead. Let me think on that for a bit.
Sure.
Yeah.
When I worked, and this was actually this was a good session. So when I worked in manufacturing, I worked with a lot of temp to hire positions, and a lot of their work, it was a tough business. It was essentially a round the clock position. So not position, but the organization. So it was first, second, third shift, hammering out all these zip ties, all injection molding. And the temp to hire position that I was training was packaging operators. So that was an entry level position, but they had 90 days to get hired as long as they showed up to work and did their best. It was a pretty, could be a successful run if they were able to make it. But it was not easy. So one of the things I would explain to them, and we worked with the temp agencies to say, hey, you have to let these people know that it's mandatory alternating weekends. And so they sometimes would say that, sometimes they wouldn't explain it very well, but then the employees would show up and I'd re-emphasize that. And they're like, yeah, that's cool. And I'm like, but hey, you're paid every week. So you're actually getting overtime check every 7 days because you're right. But I also had on the dry erase board in front of my presentation that was on the screen, I had a little dry erase board. It said 12/2. And people might be like, oh, December 2nd, that's a cool day. And I'd say, no, that nothing to do with that. What 12/2 means is that since you work mandatory alternating weekends, that's Saturday and Sunday. So Steve, you start your shift on a Monday. You work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Okay. But now it's your weekend to work. And so you work Saturday and Sunday. Guess what the day after Sunday is? Monday. So I would have to explain to them, and this is the way, quote, this is the way it's always been. This is when we need people around the clock, 12 days on, 2 days off. So they're working 24 days out of essentially 120. So yeah, now a lot of employees were okay with that, but we talked about this on a previous episode. I'm like 99% sure about a discussion that ended up happening with these employees. So
I remember that though.
The hours, yeah. So rather than we need you to work 12 on, 2 off. That's just how it's going to be for this position. However, they ended up speaking up to me. I passed this along. They filled out some surveys. The management wanted to hear it, and they went from an 8.5-hour day, which was a 8-hour day of work plus half-hour unpaid lunch. They trimmed off half hour, and they made it an 8-hour day with a 30-minute paid lunch. So 2.5 hours of a 5-day work week, they're getting back. And so that was one of those, I was kind of alluding back to that story of, it was one of those, they had their complaints. I wasn't the one that made the decision to change it, but I brought it up to management, and they heard from those employees, and it was a great thing at the end of the day.
Well, that works out perfectly, right? Like in those instances, you were a trustworthy person. They came to you. They felt that maybe you could be a change agent for them.
Sure.
And like, hey, can you be our advocate? Which now that I'm thinking about it, maybe that's more. I said that maybe it was perhaps the development side of learning and development, like that trustworthiness, but maybe it's just that advocate, like that being the guide on the side for them, like
Right.
somebody they can go to that knows that you have their back.
Right.
And if you are in learning and development and your employees or those that you work with don't feel that way towards you, you're in the wrong industry. Like, you have to be trustworthy, because otherwise everything that comes out of your mouth is bogus. It's meaningless garbage. So that's a really interesting thing. I'm really glad you brought that up, because I really genuinely wonder if that's it. If it's just that advocacy part. Oh no, that's awesome. Well, as you were telling your story, and I wanted to make sure I was being, fully present for yours, I can't think of one where I had a group where it kind of turns into this like full-blown confessional. I think the closest thing I've gotten to that, but it was a good thing, is I was doing a session on conflict management.
Okay.
Specifically, and I know I mentioned this in the past, that I am a Thomas Kilmann conflict mode instrument certified coach. So I know, yeah. What up? I don't know. Whatever. But because that's something that calls directly to your own behaviors, and like, how do you handle conflict is a very personalized thing. It's a cultural thing. It's an interpersonal communications device. Like, there's a lot of things to that. So what I'm asking people to do is be vulnerable and talk about, like, so you have an avoiding mindset when you deal with conflict. Typically, what does that mean? Does it mean that you're trying to avoid it because you just don't want to deal with it? Or are you doing it because you're trying to prioritize? You want more time for information. You just don't have time. Like, so getting them to really kind of open up about these things and be truthful about them. Not that I would consider that confessional, but it was definitely a step in the direction of them being kind of vulnerable and saying, like, these are things that I do. Some of them could be looked at as faults, but this is just who I am, which is a great step in the right direction for leaders to have that moment of, this is who I am. This is what I do well. This is what I need to work on. So I like yours. Yours has a happy ending. Mine's like, wow, okay, thanks for the downer. But I can't think of one, honestly.
That's probably the one that comes to mind for me the most.
Yeah.
Think about it.
What a good one, though. It's a good one.
Yeah. I think a lot of times people are there for if they're mandated to be there or they want to be at the training. I think a lot of times it's a collective, like, okay, we're here to told. We use that a lot at my employer.
Yep. Yeah. Mandatold, voluntold.
Yes, exactly. So you got to put a little spin on it sometimes.
I hear that. So let me ask you this before we kind of venture off, and that is, in any role that you've had where people are coming to you as this advocate or confidant, have you ever had it where you feel like you are somewhat sucked into that drama? Like, you're a third party, but you really agree with what they're saying. Like, yeah, you're right. That is baloney. That's not fair. And you kind of get like pulled into it. Have you ever had that?
Well, little do you know, Steve. No, Steve, you know fully well. Part of my role, I do leadership training, but I also do a lot of training on diversity, equity, and inclusion. So without going full into detail, because that's not what we're going to talk about on today's episode, but there's a lot of topics that I feel a certain way about. It may not be strongly about, but one of my, and I preface that with my role at my employer as a facilitator is to pass along the vision and the mission of the organization.
Yeah.
And that is what I do. I keep the politics, I keep my own viewpoint out of it.
Mhm.
But of course, I'm a human. I have my opinion on things.
Mhm.
So when there's sometimes when I have a group and they might be 100% one way, they might be 50-50. The idea is that I basically say, hey, we do a lot of like, let's say having difficult conversations. We've talked about that here. Okay. You might be on one side of the bridge. You might be on the other side of the bridge. And my thought isn't to get everyone right in the middle in the hug. Okay. We don't have time for that in a 2 or 4 hour session. But what we can do is we can start to work our way towards one another to start to see the viewpoints. It has nothing to do with agreeing with what your neighbor thinks. That is not the end goal. It is considering their points of view. Where do they come from? You mentioned a second ago, Steve, you said culture. Okay. You used the word culture, and that's it. In this culture, this happens. In this area, this happens. And it's our own lived experiences. Whether or not you are in the majority or whether or not you're in a marginalized group, at the end of the day, that doesn't matter. It's the fact that we're all trying to get an idea of where others come from, just so I have a better understanding. That is where that respect can come from.
Yeah.
So kind of tying into that, feeding into the drama, there's times where I'm like, I like that point. I like that point.
Yeah.
That one. But as a professional facilitator, I'm basically guiding conversation, and which I love about the facilitation side of it, Stephen. You and I are both the same wavelength here, where if we have a 2-hour training, 3-hour training, we want to be talking about the content to a point, but we would love to get small group discussion. We would love to play some activities. We would maybe play a quick little video clip. We want to keep things going. We don't want to be the person up there just preaching.
Yeah.
And so to answer that question, yes, there's times, but I love the idea of just getting people's opinions, to have that safe space as we talked about.
Yeah.
And you listeners, you can't see me obviously, but when I talk about something like I'm doing right now, and I get very passionate about it, and I'm excited because I love to do that, it's hands are all over the place. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, but I'm loving it.
No, I think that's a really valid point. And I like that you said that we're human, right? Like we have our preconceived notions, we have our prejudices, like we have these biases, we have them just like anybody else. And I know you've heard this because you being the former educator, you've heard this whole like guide on the side rather than sage on the stage. And that's something I remember hearing that when I was in college. I was like, I really like that. So I say it constantly, like, I'm here to be the guide on the side. Yes, I'm standing in front of you and it looks like I'm the sage on the stage, but I'm just here to help you and your thought process migrate to the direction that we want to go as like an organization. Yeah. Now, I'll admit, early in my career, when I would have individuals come into my office and air their grievances or complain about something like that, hell yeah, I would get sucked in. Like, yeah, that's dumb. Like, nuh-uh, that's not right. And then I realized, like, oh, that's not my fight. Like, ooh. And then my lesson learned was I got embroiled in not a scandal or something, but like it was a dispute that I had no part being a part of. And I was like, okay, lesson learned. But as a young middle 20s individual just emerging in the market, you're going to make mistakes. It's okay. Just learn from them. Now I'm a disgusting looking 40-plus-year-old and I still make terrible mistakes, but I don't make the same ones over and over again. I'm okay with keeping my comments in my head. Some people will say things and sometimes the poker face needs to come out in full force. And sometimes I just need to close my eyes and go, God, I can't disagree harder. But hey, I'm so glad you feel that way. That's great.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that opinion.
And the nice thing is I can go to my therapy sessions and go, you want to hear this shit? So it works. It's great. I just get to pass that baggage on to somebody else. That's the beauty of it all.
Yeah. Paper baggage, for sure.
Paper baggage signed, boom, by two absolute gross people. So,
we got to get some signed merch, paper bags up in here.
Oh my God. Maybe that should be, we could always bring back some of our contests, and that could be a going away. That could be our prize. Signed paper bags. My God. All right. So, Patrick,
Yes.
Do you know who is the root of all of our therapy and our therapy bills?
Spin-a-root-ski.
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 Oh, spin-a-root-ski. What's the spin-a-root-ski?
The root of our therapy bills.
Oh, God, I didn't catch that. Wow. Anyway, you are correct, good sir. It is the spin-a-root-ski. God. Anyway. All right, folks. Well, while Patrick fires up the wheel, I'd like to remind all of you on what the spin-a-root-ski is. Each episode, we spin the spin-a-root-ski, which is a wheel of names that might belong to the woman who so generously shoved Mr. Patrick and I into the ugly club all those years ago. And the goal, of course, is that we would love to land on her name so we can thank her properly. Patrick, are you ready?
I am so ready. Counting down from
All right.
3,
2, 1. Spin that rooski.
The wooden wheel.
The wooden wheel. Folks, it's really wooden. I know Patrick lied and said it was just a computer program, but it's wooden. Blair. That is not a name I thought you were going to say. Blair. Wow. Thank you so. Blair. That's a nice, unique name.
Blair's like a early, again, I'm loving it because it's early 2000s, like a TD character on like the UW or CW.
Oh, totally.
You know, like one of those shows and Fox maybe. Yeah. One of those shows for high schoolers.
Yes. Linda Blair. She was the Exorcist, right? Yeah, I think so.
God, that was not that was not her walking towards us. We have Steve and I know our tastes may not be aligned, but that was not Linda Blair.
No, it wasn't. She also played Wonder Woman, didn't she? Anyway, well, Blair, thank you so very much. Thank you for shoving Patrick and I into the ugly club. We appreciate you and everything you have given us over the years. So thank you again, Blair. You're wonderful. Well, man.
Well,
yeah.
Shall we?
Yeah, let's do it, man.
That about does it for this episode. We want to thank everyone out in listener land for joining us on Grossly Competent. If you like what you're hearing and you want to support the show, here are the best ways possible. Steve.
Ooh, you can subscribe, follow, and give a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your podcasts. You can visit us on Buzzsprout at grosslycompetentbob.buzzsprout.com. Here you can become an active supporter and help us with the show. Every cent counts. We love you, and it means the world to us. Give us a shout on Instagram at grosslycompetent. You can email us directly at grosslycompetent@gmail.com. Otherwise, if all else fails, please tell your friends, your family, your coworkers, that super awesome L&D person / therapist at your company about this podcast.
We appreciate all of you more than you know. Any support you can throw our way truly does mean the world to us. This show takes a surprising amount of effort for two guys who happen to unfortunately look like us. However, we are very grateful we get to bring it to you each and every week, as long as the radio waves, the
streaming waves,
stream waves.
I don't know, stream waves.
Yeah. Let's do it. Yeah,
I like it. First and foremost, this week, I'd like to welcome our new listeners from Texas. specifically the folks outside the Dallas area in Soxie. I'm sure hoping I'm saying that correctly. And if I'm not, at Grossly Competent on Instagram, come on, hook us up. I'm assuming the reason why we have some new listeners in the Texas area is because they have heard you, Patrick, talking trash about their pledge or their rewritten history books, and they're going to give you a piece of their mind, or they're probably just lovely people and they have a penchant for listening to two guys from Wisconsin banter about getting locked in bathrooms, or, staring at solar eclipses, or getting pinched by escalators.
Well, speaking of pledges, I pledge allegiance to the Ugly Club. Two masks under flames. Under flames.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Under Country Bar. Oh,
that's even better.
All right, so I said I had 3 shout outs. So that was the first one. The second one is more of a revisit. Please don't forget to check out Sarah Valentine's podcast, the Heart Leadership Podcast. And please say hello from Patrick and I. She has the fan mail option that you can send her a message. I believe she has it set up that you have to send a voicemail. So she asked to hear your voice. And part of me was like, maybe I should send one in, but that might feel a bit like pandering. So I didn't want to do that. But if somebody would like to do it on my behalf or Patrick's, that would be super cool. And I've noted that
we don't want to break her voicemail.
No, we don't want to do. That's a good point. And I did see that she's been listening in. So I was like, oh, that's so very sweet. So thank you, Sarah. And I hope we're able to send you some listeners. Last but not least, tomorrow is March 19th. And that is also my daughter's 7th birthday. So I'd like to wish my daughter a happy early birthday.
Well, happy birthday. I will also then give a birthday shout out to my good friend, Jeff. That is Jeff with a G. Okay. And
nice.
Great friend, been a friend since grade school. And what a great day.
Yeah. What a great day is right. So I thought for a second there that you thought my daughter's name was Jeff. But then once you said that it was somebody you went to grade school with, that makes a lot more sense. So, well, happy birthday, Jeff. Happy birthday, Macy. And yeah, you ready to close this puppy down?
Let's do it.
All right, man. Hey, folks, that's it for this episode. Thank you so much, Uggos. You guys are fantastic. We will see you next time. Are you ready? How have we not been picked up by a record label?
No. I kind of was channeling my inner, I don't know what the hell I was doing, but it wasn't great.
I thought it sounded like music to my ears. And by that, I mean like razor blades. No. You have the voice of a songbird, Mr. Patrick. Voice of a songbird.
Birds freak me out, man. We talked about this.
They're not real. Are we still recording? Oh, no. No, I'm sorry. All government agencies, we're kidding. They're totally real. And we believe that they're not surveillance mechanisms. No, I am obviously kidding.